Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is another How to Synth tutorial. And today I'm going to teach you how to make this sound. For real this time. Look at that, windows and everything. So this is a snare. I had a how to drum, I had like a how to kick and a how to snare. There were two different, like, I guess, series. I don't know why. I wasn't doing how to synth back then. But now that I am doing how to synth, I think it makes much more sense to put this stuff into how to synth because it is synthesis. Go figure. So one more thing to mention. This actually has to do with my Patreon campaign. One of the rewards for our Patreon is if you pledge at a certain level is that you get a credit and a mention in a video. And the mention is that I mention who you are, and then I also promote a link of your choice. I expected that the people who would take advantage of this would, like, promote their, like, SoundCloud or whatever, which I'm totally fine with. But the first person to actually do this decided to remain anonymous and to promote a charity link. And that charity link is in the link in the description of this video, which I just think is the coolest thing ever. So props to that guy. And if you're curious about how that works, check out my Patreon page, which is also linked in the description of this video. So let's talk about making a snare. This actually is part of a larger attempt for me to see if I can to synthesize, goddamn, an entire drum kit. And here I have a beat that I made just as an example. And everything you're hearing there was synthesized with citrus and such. There's a serum here. Actually, I was talking to a Virtual Ride about doing it, and this is a patch that he made to demonstrate sort of a smart way of starting off how to do snare synthesis. So he's a cool dude for that. I have this kick. I'm not gonna talk about this kick, but if you want to see about how to make that kick, I actually the one how to kick video is this kick. So it did a pretty good job. I already did, like I said, I had a snare, and it is still more or less the same idea of this snare, but it's not. This is just way better than the other attempt. Let's see. I also have a light snare, which is just a lighter version of the same snare. I have this hat, a ride, and that ride. Cymbals are so far are starting to be the harder ones. At least, I mean, I have a reasonable idea. Like, I have some toms that I haven't. They're not super great. I'm still working on those. But like kick and snare are both pretty straightforward. Anyway, now that we can actually see this, this is split up into 4 citruses, but it isn't so much that there's actually 4 citruses worth of stuff going on, as it is that I actually just wanted to separate the individual parts so that I could do external processing, mostly just linking reverb to them in a different way. And I mean, just by looking at this, the way that this is going, I probably could have consolidated this in a smarter way, but this is, fresh territory for me. So the first guy here, see this guy, I don't think is doing anything at all, so I'm just going to get rid of it. It is a sine wave with a sort of higher harmonic. It's very low going on there. All of this is being compressed, by the way. So, but let's actually turn this off, just off compression. And we'll listen to what this sounds like without compression. Like a way less impressive version of itself. And we'll solo all the individual bits before I go into what's supposed to happen. So, here's the first guy. Just that. Now, note that I have this reverb on here, too. If I don't have the reverb on, notice how much doofier it sounds. I mentioned this to, I think, a student. I may have talked about this in other videos, but the difference between synthetic sounds and real sounds is typically that when you're hearing real sounds, they were recorded somewhere. And part of the sound that we're hearing is where they were recorded. The room sound, the ambience, that kind of thing. And a perfectly fake sound will have none of that. And it's one of the reasons why reverb is such a big deal on all this stuff. It helps it convolutes it, convolves it, and that kind of thing. With a simple introduction of reverb, it can make something that's even the fakest of fake and actually make it sound like something that may have existed for real in wherever they are. In fact, if I turn all of this back on, go back to compression, and just disable the reverb on all of the... That's a big difference. So that's actually just something about physical modeling in general, is that when you're modeling realistic things, it's not just about what the sound source is doing. It's about how the sound source is reacting, but in the space that it's in before it gets to the recording apparatus. Anyway, so the first part is just that big doof. Then there's this sort of smappy thing. Then there's metallic harmonics. That's the kind of resonance you get out of an actual acoustic snare. This doesn't sound like a very acoustic snare, but just that addition of it actually makes it feel a bit more acoustic. Although at large, this doesn't necessarily need that. That's one of the cool parts of doing all this kind of stuff. From the scratchiest of scratches, that you have control over every individual element. And you can pick and choose and move and have and don't have to your heart's content. Let's actually have it through only one of them now, instead of both of them at once. I don't really do a lot of parallel compression in my life. Parallel processing. New York processing, what is it? It's parallel processing. Although, now that I think about it, no, I guess it is parallel processing. Okay, and then noise. There's actually two different noises in here that are coming out together. But that's just there to make that sound like that. So this first guy, Mr. Doof. This is what I was saying, is a sine wave with the one harmonic at this particular pitch. Now, okay, so all no matter what note I'm playing, they are all supposed to be the same note. I don't know what that weird little dip was a minute ago. Actually, I know exactly what that was. It terminated before the envelope could get anywhere, so it stopped at a higher pitch. But point being is that I have the ratio turned off on all of these, and I'm doing everything in hertz values, so that it's all just the same pitch all the time, because it's a percussion instrument. However, if you want to have any kind of pitch control, which is to say that you want to change the pitch of what you're doing, you're gonna want to link the ratio somehow, because this does nothing. And I'm pretty sure if I linked pitch to mod X, actually I probably will do something. Nope, does nothing. Which is kind of interesting because the envelope does. But point being, everything is being done by actual hertz values, which helps because when I started doing this, it's all like, I'm going to make a 200 hertz snare, so just turn it to 200 hertz. However, this doesn't say 200 hertz because I have the pitch envelope all the way up. I was experimenting with super high starting points, but this kind of sound really works best when it doesn't start all that high. Now, it's actually starting here, but you can see harmonic activity, like actual frequency activity happening up there. And actually, the reason why that's happening is because the phase was moved of the primary oscillator. So it's not starting at a zero cross. And that's what's adding that teensiest, tiniest bit of full spectrum snap. There wasn't a huge, the reason why this is huge, and that's still down here, instead of just being in the middle like it's supposed to be, is because I was doing all that experimentation, and there really isn't a lot of, specific reasons for this being here the way that it is, other than it just sounds the way that I want to. And the way that I wanted was, I did that, I looked at the fundamental tone of a snare. Like, I went into one of my fave snare samples, just kind of looked at what it did, and that's how I analyze whatever I'm doing. And that's all that this guy is. This dude, Mr. Smap here, he is two parts. So the first part actually is number 5 here. This is a really big pitch fall. However, the volume terminates before it actually gets to the bass. This is essentially like what a kick would be if I allowed it to actually continue down to have the body of the sound. But I just stopped it from getting that far down, so I have the kick sort of transient, but not anything else. And this is just to add the teensiest extra bit of slap to the very beginning of everything. And this is a little bit of motion on number 2 here. There's pitch on this guy. There's pitch on somebody here. Here it is. So there's FM involved, and they're all different pitches, and because we're doing percussive sounds, this is all very non-harmonic stuff. And so when I'm FMing stuff by other things, the values that I chose, the shapes and the things that I'm going, are largely pretty random, and it was mostly just sticking around until I heard kind of what I wanted out of it. If you watch the How to Synth tutorial on bells, you can see why some of this translates into some stuff you want to do, and you can actually do some of that stuff with FM. In fact, what happens when you FM a pitch by a non-harmonic pitch is that the harmonics move out of harmonic position, and you get the metallic sound. And in this case, we got the noisy sound by being high enough and low enough and moving around the whole thing. And so there's volume. Is there movement under the mod? No, is there volume on? Yeah. So not only is there volume on the main guide, but there's also volume on the two different FM oscillators. And FM, as you know, is controlled by the volume of the modulating oscillator. So now that the modulating oscillators are being controlled down, the FM is being controlled down, and plus the pitch changing, how fast the FM is causing a lot of changing, which is why that has a pretty smooth, noisy texture to it, because all the harmonics are moving constantly. And during the tiny window that we have, they actually hear that it's being on. Combined with the kicks map, we get what we want. This guy's fun. So, like I said, if you modulate an oscillator by another oscillator of a different pitch, of like a not harmonic pitch, you get kind of metallic tones. Now, I believe I'm moving, so I'm very, very slowly moving pitch on number 4 here. When we hear it at full volume like that, it actually doesn't sound all that great, but the mix makes it work. Now, you might hear that it's actually a little bit of randomness engaged, and that's because I am randomizing, I believe, the volumes of these things. A volume of this guy and the mod of this guy, which works out to being the volume of this guy twice, just to make it extra random. And that's so that it doesn't sound the same every single time, and we get enough of that kind of like live acoustic-y feel to it. The actual just pitches, you can see, is actually pretty similar to what was in the other guy. This is sort of the main difference, is that it's not hitting as hard. Like, in fact, if I just, it's the low value of it, keeping it close to kind of what the harmonics were, but still moving them a little bit out of position, which is causing the metallic feel to it. I keep saying metallic, but honestly, like, wooden snares do this too. This is really just specific resonance, which is cool as hell. A little bit of reverb. Now the noise. So I mentioned there's 2 different noises in here. So I actually modeled this snare after Snare, and it actually wasn't one of the 85 ones. I actually just opened up a Zomboy track just to see, like, you know, what the kids are doing these days, and listen to that, and I was like, cool, I'll just do that. And it was basically just one of these big, beefy mid-range snares with a kind of a clap tone to it. Now, the clap tone is easy enough to accomplish just by putting noise up in that clap range, which is kind of like in the 2K range. On top, so I have clap noise and the really high frequency noise. So like, you may have heard me talk about what I call the anatomy of a snare when I'm doing mixing or whatever. And so when I think of it, we have like fundamental tone, like harmonic resonance, and then we have a clap range and then the paper range. So here's the paper range and here's the clap range. I'm just doing both of this into one whole thing. The way this is working is I have a bandpass filter on a noise operator. The noise has this volume on it. This comes off pretty fast. I also have a volume oscillator on the envelope on the filter, so that it comes up. It's not perfectly fast. And that's actually a lot of the non-transient elements are all doing that, and including the resonance, the harmonic snare type resonance. Those things are all doing that to make it so that there's no conflict for the actual impact. It's kind of just like ducking, which you may incorrectly call sidechaining, but we're all going to continue to call sidechaining because it's what you call sidechaining. Anyway, bandpass filter, and then I believe I'm automating the resonance for up to down. So resonance in a bandpass filter is bandwidth. It's like, this is low Q. Is it high Q? Or I guess this is maybe low Q. Yeah, this is low Q. Low, high, so low bandwidth, high bandwidth, that kind of thing. So it's starting open and going down really fast. So it's like, whoosh, that kind of thing. And that's actually what's causing that kind of feel. That's the opposite. The cutoff is being modulated to do this. and the cutoff itself was just put it to where you want it to be. And that's our clap sound. Put it all together and compress it. So when you see me, like, usually when I mention the anatomy of snare, it's usually in this context of how I'm going to compress it. So I kind of have made the low, mid, high to represent the main bits. We have the bass, fundamental tone is what I keep trying to say, the harmonic area, and then sort of the noise section. Yeah, right. And so then I kind of wanted to make this use this as kind of like a transient shaper, but the thing was already kind of doing what I wanted to do, so it didn't really do much. It's mostly just there, and there's no attack. There's no attack on anything. Now, attack on a compressor doesn't necessarily mean what you entirely think it does mean. And a lot of people would think that if you want to increase attack, like they actually have like attack, I would actually want to increase attack. Like, so that we, it delays how much time it takes for it to fully engage. Some different compressors, which is to say compressors that aren't Maximus, have attack to mean different things, but generally speaking, you want to have some attack to actually leave some attack on whatever sound that you're doing. However, when I am fully crushing an ultra brick wall super hard, pushing everything, I want the attack to be 0. I want everything to be on immediately so that the snappiness is the way that I want to have it to be controlled. If I'm going to do something like this, I need the attack to be full. Like, I need the thing to be on immediately so that I can adhere exactly to what's happening, and all that kind of stuff. So on the higher frequencies, I have much faster time variables because they're much higher frequencies, and they oscillate a lot faster, so you can do that. And then on the high, on master, I have actually it's not fully brick walling, but I do have saw saturation, which is aiding the snappiness because it doesn't. It's just distortion, and that whole thing. I missed one. There it is. I'm controlling the stereo spread just a tad on some things. Another kind of a beautiful thing about doing this from scratch, super scratch, is that, again, you have control over every element, and you can really just turn it into whatever the hell you want, and aid your mix in ways that you could never do if you just had this as a sample. And I mean, there's other strengths to having things as samples, but this is something I think is an uncharted avenue for most people. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this guy. This patcher will be available in the description of this video for download, along with the link, the charity link provided by the anonymous Patreon donor. If you would like to promote a link in one of these videos or show up on a credit for one of the videos, you can check out the Patreon page and pledge at the appropriate amount, because at that point you are actually effectively sponsoring the videos. How cool is that? If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all the good stuff, and as usual, have a nice day. This time, I did it right.